Top 10 budget topics for an essay. Budget deficits and the economy. A budget deficit is when the government spends more than it earns. Since 1970, the U.S. did not run a deficit only in 1998 to 2001. The continuous budget deficit has adverse consequences for the country's economy. You can explore these consequences in your essay. Consider such effects as increased interest rates, decreased investment, and high indebtedness. The relationship between budget deficits and tax cutting. Tax cuts are one of the primary causes of a government's budget deficit. In your essay, you can explore specific tax-cutting policies contributing to the U.S. government's budget deficit. In particular, explain how tax cuts reduced taxes paid by wealthy people but had no effect on the low and middle-income population. How can the U.S. government address this issue and counter its budget deficit? Logrolling in politics and its impact on the government budget. Simply put, logrolling means vote trading. This practice is common in the U.S. Congress, where politicians often exchange votes with each other to ensure their favored bills get a higher chance of passing. In your paper, you can explore how logrolling can lead to excessive government spending and taxation. How do defense budget cuts affect national security? Here, you can start your discussion by explaining what the U.S. defense budget includes. Then, explore the portion of the government spending that is allocated to the common defense. How did this budget share change over time? Did defense budget cuts weaken the U.S. national security? Answer these questions in your paper. Family budget, how to live with annual income of $15,300. This topic is your chance to practice planning a family budget. Consider the case of a family consisting of 4 people with an annual income of $15,300. In your budget, you should plan for the basket of goods, housing, education, healthcare, and recreational expenses. Is it possible for a family to have a healthy and fulfilling life with such an income? What can they do to increase it? Material supply budgeting. The material supply budget estimates the materials necessary for completing a project. You can write a paper explaining the importance of this budget type and common practices managers use to plan it. You can also consider various technological tools that facilitate the creation of material supply budgets. The public budget cycle. The public budget cycle refers to planning revenues and expenditures expected in a particular accounting period. This process includes 4 stages: budget formulation, approval, execution, and evaluation. In your essay, you can choose a specific public area, such as education, and explain how it follows these 4 budgeting stages. Balancing the budget, planning, and prioritization. A balanced budget is one in which revenues are equal to or exceed total expenses. In your essay, you can explore how planning and prioritizing can help achieve a balanced budget. You can base your discussion on a personal budget, or you may choose to apply these principles to a government's budget. Educational budget cuts and counterstrategies. Educational budget cuts are common in the U.S. For example, Trump's administration proposed to cut education expenses by about 8%. What consequences can result from such budget reductions? Does educational funding affect students' performance and access to education? How can schools use limited financial resources more efficiently? Explore these questions in your paper. Budget sequestration in the U.S. Sequestration is the reduction of federal spending on certain governmental programs. You can devote your paper to explaining the effects of this process on various areas of Americans' lives. For instance, you can consider its impact on Medicare and healthcare costs.